Hey, what is up, everybody? Let's get into a recap real quick before we get anything else. Yesterday, ended up going 8-4 once again on our picks from yesterday. Thanks to a double overtime game in Providence, it helped Paul Scruggs get over on his points, and it helped Noah Horschler get over on his rebounds. Amon Franklin went under on his points. Kahith Franklin went over on his assists. Also had the game of his life, hit like 8 threes. Jaden Gardner went over on his points just barely. AJ Griffin went over on his points late. Trevor Keels went way under in his assists. And Paulo Banchero went way under in his rebounds. Wendell Moore ended up having the worst game of his career, or not of his career, but of the season. Mark Williams ended up getting a pretty good amount of rebounds in that game. Jack Nunes ended up fouling out of his game in double overtime. And then Nate Watson, took 0 shots in the first half. Took 0. Ended the game shooting like 3 for 4 and ended up taking like 4 shots. Are you kidding me? From a guy who averages 15 points per game? But it's over. It's over because the NBA is finally back. Let's go!
Finally!
Before we went on the All-Star break, we were a whopping 59-21, hitting at a 64% rate. We were killing it before the All-Star break, hoping to get real surgical again for the first day of NBA being back. I have been waiting so long for the NBA to be back. Helps the channel a lot more, helps me a lot more, helps you guys get more money because I know way more about it. I'm just ready to get back in the NBA. Let's get it. Of all the games today, you ask, Latham, who's the lock of the day today? There's a lot of good games on today. Who's the lock of the day? I tell you what, one of my favorite players in the NBA, give me D'Angelo Russell, baby. D'Angelo Russell and this Memphis Grizzlies team versus the Timberwolves. It's been a shootout. All these games have been a shootout. I tell you what, D'Angelo Russell in all 3 of their matchups, 30 points, 28 points, and 29 points. D'Angelo Russell is dropping the buckets against the Memphis Grizzlies for some reason. Don't know why. Like I said, he doesn't normally average that many points, especially with this loaded roster that they have. Here's the crazy part. They've got him set at 19.5. Each game, he's killed that. 29, 28, 30. He has killed his points line. I'm sure they're going to probably put a points, rebounds, and assist line up for him. But I like his points the most because he has been going way over in those points in his past 3 matchups. It's going to be our lock of the day. D'Angelo Russell, let's get it. When I tell you guys, seeing NBA player cards back up again on Underdog almost brought a tear to my eye. It really did. I hated so much not knowing players from college basketball, and now knowing everybody back in the NBA, knowing how their teams work, knowing how they play. It's so pressure lifted off my shoulders. It was so nice. All right, let's get into Cleveland versus Detroit, the first game of the day. 2 East teams, so they have played each other a couple times this year. They've played each other twice. The first time around, it was a 98-78, relatively low-scoring game for these 2 teams. Cavs win that one. Jeremy Grant in just 24 minutes ended up getting 16 points. Darius Garland had 21 and 7. He won't be playing today, so it's irrelevant. Just putting it out there. Mobley had 16 and 7, and Allen had 11 and 7 in that first matchup. Obviously, bench players played a lot in that game because of the blowout. Next time around, it was a Pistons win. It was a 115-105 Pistons win. Darius Garland once again had 24 and 7. Mobley had 18 and 9. Jared Allen had 15 and 9. That was a game where Sadiq Bey had 31, and Cade Cunningham had a strong second half push and had 19, 10, and 10. And Isaiah Stewart also managed to get 14 and 12 in that game. How the Pistons fare, though, against opponents of late? It's kind of been a feast show by guards. Ja Morant, 23, Desmond Bane, 22, same game. Kyle Kuzma had 23, not necessarily a guard, but number 1 scorer. Rozier had 25, Ball had 31, Luke had 33. Obviously, the guards kind of feast a little bit versus the Pistons. Here's the thing. Karis LeVert is out, as well as Darius Garland. So I don't know who they're going to put at the number 1 position for the Cavs. All I know is the last game that the Cavs didn't have Garland in, Rondo got a lot more playing time. Rondo had 17, 6, and 7. So keep that in mind if they do drop a Rondo line because of the injury to Garland. Mobley is played worse this year when Garland isn't on the floor. The last 2 games when Garland wasn't playing, he only scored 8 points both times and shot really bad from the field. His line is set at 17 points. I'm going to go under on Evan Mobley's 16.5 points simply because in the past, in none of the games where he's played without Garland has he had a great game. You would think he would have a great game. That's why his points go way up. But he actually struggles when Garland isn't on the floor for whatever reason. Also, Jared Allen has played better without Garland in his last 2 games without him. In his last 2 games without Garland, 22 and 14 and 24 and 22. The only line that I really like from Allen would be his rebounds, and I don't know if they have just a straight rebounds lineup for him right now. I can give a quick look. So they have a straight up rebounds line for Allen on underdog at 10.5. Now, guys like Steven Adams, 14 rebounds, Mason Plumlee, 10 rebounds. I could think there's a solid chance that Jared Allen could get up to 11 rebounds in this game. It'd be my favorite line for Jared Allen to go over on 11 rebounds. I don't necessarily trust his points and rebounds because sometimes he just does not take that many shots, but we're going to go over on his 10.5 rebounds. As far as the Cavs go, I like two lines in this one. The Cavs recently have given up kind of a lot to guards, believe it or not. Trae Young had 41. Tyrese Halliburton had 23. The combination of DeJounte Murray, Devin Vassell, and Derek White had 51 points. That entire backcourt did. Chris Duarte had 22, and Terry Rozier had 24. So kind of a little bit of success versus guards and the Cavs. So Saddiq Bey is set at 21 points and rebounds. They don't have just a straight up point line for him. Okay, they have him set at 3 threes, which I think is a little risky, but they have him set at a 21.5 rebounds and points line. Now he's been getting about a handful, 5-4 rebounds a game. So I like this because he's still been getting his fair amount of 20 points as well. So my favorite line for the Detroit Pistons is going to be over on 21.5 rebounds and points for Saddiq Bey. Now, what's even crazier is bigs have kind of had a lot of success, especially rebounding the basketball versus the Cavs, which you wouldn't think they do, but they do. Danilo Gallinari, they give him 25 to Danilo Gallinari one day against the Hawks. He started at the 4. He had 25 points. Joel Embiid, obviously sometimes you got to look past that because he's the best center in the NBA. He had 41, 10, and 14. O'Shea Brissett, a forward, had 18 and 11 rebounds. Jakob Poeltl had 11 rebounds. Domantas Sabonis had 11 rebounds. Mason Plumlee had 10 rebounds. So there's no reason to think that Isaiah Stewart can't go over 8.5 rebounds again. He also had 14 rebounds in their last matchup. So there's no reason to think that Saddiq Bey can't hit his over in his 8.5 rebounds. I'm doing it again. I want to see Brooklyn play one more game with this new squad, okay? Even the addition of Goran Dragic, things are going to get a little bit different. Harden coming back, not Harden coming back. Simmons kind of getting implemented into the team and stuff like that. I'm going to stay away from Boston and Brooklyn simply because, like I said, I want to see them play just a little bit more. Boston Celtics are on fire. Okay, one line. I don't mind Andre Drummond's rebounds. Okay, the Celtics chuck up a lot of shots, a lot of them. So Andre Drummond, I'm sure they said they wanted to get more conditioned. I'm sure over All-Star break he probably did a little bit of conditioning. He's probably way more prepared to be a starting center. He's gonna be out there a little bit longer. I'm having a feeling about it. But as far as Boston lines go under on these guys or just stay away from it in general. I think this game could get out of hand. The last time they played, it was a 40-point blowout, so there's a good chance it could get out of hand. But again, a very different squad last time around. But let's just stay away from Boston and Brooklyn. Opposite story for the Atlanta at Chicago game. This game is set at 2:38 on DraftKings. Now, they have matched up two prior times this season, obviously two East teams. Earlier in the season, Bulls on December 27th, the Bulls got the win 130 to 118. DeMar DeRozan, 35, 10 assists, 5 rebounds. Zach LaVine had 30. Vooch had 24 and 17. Cameron Reddish had 33. Trae Young had 29 and 9 assists. Clint Capella had 8 and 16 in 25 minutes. And then they played each other 2 days later. An almost identical score was 131 to 117. Last time it was 130 to 118. That time the Bulls as well got the win. Trae Young had 26 and 11. Clint Capella had 18 and 15, played 25 minutes again. Zach LaVine had 25. DeMar DeRozan had 28 and 4. And Nikola Vucevic, again, had 16 and 20. So he had pretty big games as far as rebounding goes, both ways. What is the weakness of these two teams? We know that the Chicago Bulls struggle tremendously guarding elite scoring guards. What is Trae Young? He's one of the top scorers in the league. Now, they've got his line for points set at 28.5. I don't know why Trae Young couldn't hit that. He's been feasting as far as scoring the ball goes of late, and he's going to do that probably again today. It's going to be a good game between Chicago and Atlanta, as well as, like I said, the Chicago Bulls just give up so much on the perimeter. Now, looking at their past matchups between Atlanta and the Bulls, not only was Trae Young eating, but guys like Cameron Reddish on off guard ate a little bit. In their second matchup on December 29th, they must have had a COVID roster or something because some weird names I hadn't heard of had played for the Hawks that day. But both of those guys that were the new guys on the team both had 16 and 14. So I actually like Kevin Huerter's over his 11.5 points. It looks like not only does Trae Young get a lot of good amount of buckets versus the Bulls, but also the off guard to Trae Young. Also has himself a good night. So we're going to go over on Kevin Huerter's 11.5 points. And again, we're going to keep riding this gravy train till it crashes. I mean, DeMar DeRozan, 28.5 points. Go over on it. I mean, why not? He's 7, 8 straight 30-point games. I mean, until he misses, I'm going to keep on going over on him. Also, Atlanta, not a very good defensive team. Doesn't have anybody to guard DeMar DeRozan. Nobody in the league right now can guard DeMar DeRozan, if I'm being quite honest. So over on DeMar DeRozan's 28.5 points. Love that line. As well as Vucevic. They've got his points and rebounds set at 30.5. Both matchups this season, he had 24 and 17 and 16 and 20. So he had 36 and 41 in their two matchups as far as points and rebounds go. So that's way over on that. I love that line for Nikola Vucevic. Now this is the juicy one. This line is set at 240 on DraftKings. Okay, they've actually matched up 3 times this season. 2 West teams, obviously. November 8th, it was a 125-118 Memphis win. The Memphis Grizzlies. The Minnesota Timberwolves big 3 took 64 shots in this game. D'Angelo Russell had 30, Ant had 27, and Cat had 25 and 12. Ja had 33, 8 and 6. Jaren Jackson had 14 and 8, and Desmond Bane had 13. Now, that is the only game that Ja Morant had a good one. The next 2 he would only have 11, and the next game after that he would only have 16, but he had 9 and 8 as well. Desmond Bane, in their last 2 matchups, has kind of been the guy. He had 21 in their second matchup. He also had 21 in their third matchup. But it's the Cat. It's this big 3 for the for the Timberwolves that has been feasting in all these games. Like I said, the first one they had 30, 27, 25. Took 64 shots between these 3 players. Their next game on November 28th, there was a 138-95 Timberwolves blowout. This was the only game that was a blowout. D'Lo 28, Ant 23, Cat 21. The third game, 116-108 Memphis win. D'Lo 29, Cat 25, Ant 30. All 3 of these boys beast for whatever reason versus the Grizzlies. 3 straight times in a row convinces me enough to go over. Like we said, D'Angelo Russell was our lock of the day. Anthony Edwards is set at 22.5 points. I'm going to go over on Anthony Edwards, 22.5 points. Got that in all 3 matchups this year with 27, 23, and 27, 23, and 30. Also, Ja Morant has had a bad game the last 2 times around. Here's the thing. Memphis is playing, they're got the 3rd best record in the league right now. Ja Morant was playing incredible before the break. There's no reason to think that he won't do that again. Even though past history in this case shows that he has kind of struggled the last 2 games versus the Grizzlies, versus the Timberwolves. I'm going to go over on Ja Morant's 29.5 points. He's been killing it as far as points goes. I think he's 3rd in the NBA in points. We're going to go over on Ja Morant's 29.5 points. Also, another thing to keep in key in this game, the Timberwolves foul the most in the entire NBA, which means opposing teams get to the free throw line a lot, which is what Ja Morant does. Ja Morant gets to the free throw line. So, I also think Ja Morant's going to get a lot of points at the line, leaving him to get a lot of points. You know what I mean? And one more line I like from this game is we're going to go under on Jaren Jackson Jr. He needs 17.5 points. In all 3 of his matchups, only hit that 1 time. In their most recent matchup on January 13th, he had 20 points. Before that, he had just 12 points, and the game before that, he had only 14 points. So I think under on 17.5 points is a safe one for Jaren Jackson Jr. Getting into the late game, obviously, the big news, Chris Paul is out for probably the rest of the season because the rest of the season is only 7 weeks long for the regular season. So Chris Paul is probably going to be out for the entirety of the regular season. Here is the crazy thing. I don't know why Mikal Bridges is still at 14.5 points. Even with Chris Paul out of the lineup, they're going to put Mikal Bridges at 14.5 points. This has to be a steal for me. I mean, he's shown that he can score the basketball and he can score it off the dribble and he doesn't need necessarily Chris Paul to set him up. So I'm going to go over on 14.5 points for Mikal Bridges. That just seems like a steal for me. Now, Booker, you'd have to think, is going to have a pretty good night as well. OKC gives up so much to everybody, bigs, guards, really anybody you can think of. Devin Booker obviously is going to have to be the number 1 guy, carry the team. 27.5 points over for Devin Booker seems like a pretty good steal for me. I sound like a broken record, but I'm going to keep doing it. I went away from it the last couple of games, but I'm going to do it again today simply because the Thunder don't have very good rebounding. I'm going to go over on Jay Crowder's 5.5 rebounds. I don't want to say this game's going to get out of hand, and there's a reason why I'm telling you guys to bet on it, because the last time around, when the Suns didn't have Chris Paul against the Rockets were able to almost stick into that game and win that game. Now, Thunder are right on that same plane as far as tier level to me as the Rockets. So don't be surprised if this game ends up being close. But I like Jay Crowder over in his 5.5 rebounds. Let's also keep in mind, I went back and just to make sure I went back and looked. The last time around, the Suns didn't have Chris Paul was back in the Western Conference Finals, right? Booker had 40, 13 rebounds, and 11 assists. There's no reason to think why Devin Booker won't have his won't feast himself. Jay Crowder had 6 boards, and Mikal Bridges had 14 points. But I think Mikal Bridges is a much better scorer and a much better player than he was that last time. Here's the crazy thing. I would think without Chris Paul that DeAndre Ayton wouldn't play as well, but he actually has. In this game 2 matchup, he had 24 and 14, as well as in their game 1 matchup without Chris Paul, he also managed to have 20 and 9. So maybe I know they got let's see what they got for DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton is set at 26.5 points and rebounds, or a 15.5 points line. Now, I'm going to go over on DeAndre Ayton's points and rebounds, just set at 27. In a perfect world, he'd need like 14 and 13. Because I don't think that the Suns don't really, or not the Suns, the Thunder don't have anybody to hold DeAndre Ayton. There's no reason to think that he can't get a bunch of rebounds and as well as some easy buckets at the basket. So we're going to go over on DeAndre Ayton's points and rebounds as well. Next up is Denver-Sacramento. Now, this is one of those games you cannot look at the history of their last matchups because obviously the Kings have gotten much better this time around than they were last time. So obviously they didn't have Sabonis, they didn't have Sabonis, they had Buddy Hield, stuff like that. So their last matchup was a 111 to 121 Nuggets win, so it was a close game. I anticipated to once again be a close game because the Kings, like I said, got much better. Only thing we can take away from this, De'Aaron Fox had 30. De'Aaron Fox is averaging 26 points per game in their last 3 matchups versus the Nuggets. Nuggets struggle on perimeter defense. De'Aaron Fox is set at 24.5. It's my favorite line from this game. It was almost my lock of the day. Over 24.5 points for De'Aaron Fox versus the Denver Nuggets. As far as Nuggets lines, now I like Jokic's 13.5 rebounds. He has been rebounding the ball insanely, even against really good rebounding teams. Orlando, a really good rebounding team. Toronto, probably one of the best, if not the best, rebounding team. Still had 15, and he still had 15. So Jokic still gets his crazy rebounds. Doesn't matter really who he plays. So even though he's playing an elite rebounder in Domantas Sabonis, I have a feeling he's still going to get his rebounds. So over on his rebounds. Here's the thing. I like his under on his points and rebounds and assists because, like I said, Domantas Sabonis, one of the best, not only rebounders, but as well as shot blockers, defenders in the NBA as far as in the paint goes. So I feel like Jokic won't have his normal crazy stats he's going to normally put it. So under on his points, rebounds, and assists, but over on his rebounds. Now, with Sabonis' line, sorry, I kind of jumped back and forth between teams here. In his last 3 matchups versus the Nuggets versus Nikola Jokic, only 13.3 points, 12 rebounds, 7 assists. So his line for points is set at 19.5. I'm going to go under on Domantas Sabonis' 19.5 points because historically versus the Nuggets, he's kind of struggled to put the ball in the basket. He's done a lot of other things really well. Like he's gotten really good rebounds and 7 assists is pretty good for a center. Really good for a center. But I'm going to go under on his 19.5 points because he has not been able to put the ball in the basket versus the Nuggets. Portland Golden State. Obviously, the Portland Trail Blazers have been a little bit shaken up since the last time they played the Warriors because of the CJ McCollum trade. Here's the thing. The Portland Trail Blazers have pretty bad perimeter defense as it is. Josh Hart was a pretty good upgrade for them as far as perimeter defense goes. I'm going to go on a limb, and I'm going to pray. Stephen Curry just hit 16 threes in a game. Let's go over on Steph Curry's 25.5 points. I'm praying he still has some of that juice flowing through his veins and he has another monster game tonight. I don't normally like to go over on Stephen Curry, especially against teams that aren't nearly as good as them. But I'm going to do it. Over on Steph Curry's 25.5 points. Let's hope he still has that juice flowing through his veins from the All-Star game. Now, obviously the Warriors have one of the best perimeter defenses in the league. I'm going to stay away from Hart and Simmons. The one guy I am going to actually pay attention to is Justice Winslow. Justice Winslow is sneakily... I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he's been installed into the starting lineup since the trade, in the injury to Norman Powell. And Justice Winslow has low-key been filling up the stat sheet. 13, 10, and 4, 14, 5, and 6, 16, 7, and 3. They've got his PRA set at 24, 23.5. I'm going to go over on Justice Winslow's 23.5 as my sleeper pick of the day for Justice Winslow. Here we go, my top 5 picks of the day. And my top 5 picks to not mess with. Now that we're back in the NBA, we can get back onto that status. So coming in at number 1 for my favorite pick of the day, give me my lock of the day, D'Angelo Russell, over 19.5 points. Number 2, he's averaging 26 points per game versus the Denver Nuggets, and his line is set at 24.5. Give me the Foxy Loxy, give me De'Aaron Fox over on his points. Coming in at number 3, give me Isaiah Stewart's rebounds. Bigs have gotten so much rebounds versus the Cavs, believe it or not. And Isaiah Stewart, a really good rebounder, set at 8.5 rebounds. We're going to go over on that 8.5 rebounds. Coming in at number 4, give me DeMar DeRozan's points. We're going to keep riding this gravy train till it crashes over in DeMar DeRozan's points. Nothing more to say. And at number 5, we're going to stay with another Chicago Bull. We're going to do Nikola Vucevic over on his 30.5 rebounds and assists. Or excuse me, points and rebounds. Set at 30.5 both times. He's crushed that line versus the Hawks. Hopefully continue to do the same. Top 5 picks not to mess with coming in hot. Give me Evan Mobley at number 1. When Garland isn't on the floor, Mobley struggles. He's set at 16.5 points. We're going to go under on Evan Mobley's points. Coming in at number 2, stay away from Jason Tatum. I have a feeling he's not going to have the time on the floor to put up the stats he needs. He needs 40 for his PRA. Let's go under on Jason Tatum's PRA. Coming in at number 3, stay away from Steven Adams. Now, I know he's had some pretty monster games recently. This game is going to be fast-paced, too fast for Steven Adams. The last 3 times he's played with them, or played in these matchups, he's played under 20 minutes all 3 times. Not going to have the time on the floor to be able to put up the buckets. Under 7.5 points for Steven Adams. Bringing in at number 4, give me Patrick Beverley. Under his 4.5 assists, he tries to be a playmaker. He tries to be a facilitator. You can tell he's trying to improve his offensive game. Hasn't hit 5 assists in quite some time. Not going to be versus the Memphis Grizzlies and their elite front court as far as defense goes. I'm going to go under 4.5 assists for Patrick Beverley. And our last one to round out the list, let's stay away from Josh Giddey today. They're playing the Suns, one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. Jay Crowder, Mikal Bridges, Devin Booker at times. Let's stay away from Josh Giddey today. Also, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's back. We don't know exactly how they're going to mesh back together on the floor again. Obviously, he's not going to put up triple-doubles like he has been, so let's stay away from Josh Giddey. All right, guys, with that being said, let's kill it today. I am so excited for the NBA to come back. Let's get some money. Let's get this money, and let's get this money, baby. I got solid picks for you guys today. Whole lot. It just feels so good. It feels so good. I know a lot of people are so excited for the NBA to be back. I'm so excited as well. I'm gonna get this put out as fast as I can. Edit and put together. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, but I'm gonna try to get this put out and as quickly as I can. Love you guys. Thank you guys so much. We just hit 500 subs just the other day. Thank you guys so much for that. Next up is 1,000. Hey, let's do this thing. Let's get it.